Pong. 1972. Atari releases a game that will forever change the entertainment industry. A simple arcade with two paddles and a bouncing ball becomes the first truly mainstream video game phenomenon, paving the way for an entire era of home consoles. Gotcha. 1973. Atari releases the first chase game in video game history. A simple maze, two players, and the thrill of pursuit lay the groundwork for an entire genre of arcade chase and pursuit games. Tank. 1974. Atari creates a two-player arcade game about tank battles on a minefield. The game becomes a massive hit and pushes the company toward developing its own home console. Gunfight. 1975. Japanese company Taito creates the first game in history to use a microprocessor. Two cowboys in a shootout usher in the era of digital arcade machines and forever change the face of gaming halls. Breakout. 1976. Atari releases an arcade game designed by a young Steve Wozniak. Players smash colorful rows of bricks with a bouncing ball, creating the foundation for an entire school of simple yet addictive games.
But yeah, this is pretty much how the original Breakout looked, as far as I can tell from some of the original YouTube videos and things that I've seen. As you can tell, this is a variation of
Combat. 1977. Atari launches the revolutionary Atari 2600 home console and ships Combat as its pack-in title. Tank and jet duels become the first mass-market home gaming experience. Space Invaders. 1978. Japanese company Taito creates an arcade legend. For the first time in history, players shoot down waves of pixelated aliens, and a simple four-note melody becomes one of the most recognizable sounds in gaming. Asteroids. 1979. Atari releases a vector-based space shooter that conquers arcade halls worldwide. A lone pilot dodges planetary debris and single-handedly defends the galaxy from cosmic threats. Pac-Man, 1980. Japanese studio Namco creates a yellow hero who conquers arcade halls across the globe. A maze, for ghosts, and hundreds of dots become the symbol of the golden age of arcades and one of the most iconic images in gaming history. Donkey Kong. 1981. Japanese game designer Shigeru Miyamoto creates a legendary arcade game for Nintendo. A giant gorilla, a small mustachioed hero, and rolling barrels on platforms give birth to the future king of video games, Mario. Pitfall. 1982. Activision releases an adventure hit for the Atari 2600. Harry Pitfall jumps over crocodiles and collects treasures in the jungle, creating the explorer platformer genre. Mario Bros. 1983. Nintendo releases an arcade game where plumber brothers Mario and Luigi appear together for the first time. The sewers of New York City become the stage for one of the most legendary duos in gaming history. Tetris. 1984. Soviet programmer Alexei Pajitnov invents a puzzle that will conquer millions. Falling shapes made of squares become the best-selling game of all time, proving that brilliant ideas are born from simplicity. Super Mario Bros. 1985. Nintendo releases a game that saves the industry after the Great Crash. A mustachioed plumber from the Mushroom Kingdom becomes the most recognizable character in video games and the symbol of an entire era. The Legend of Zelda. 1986. Shigeru Miyamoto and Nintendo create Link, a brave hero who sets out to rescue Princess Zelda from the villain Ganon. The open world of Hyrule sets the standard for adventure games for decades to come. Final Fantasy. 1987. Japanese studio Square releases their Last Hope, a role-playing game about 4 warriors of light. The game saves the company from bankruptcy and founds one of the most legendary series in RPG history. Super Mario Bros. 3. 1988. Nintendo releases a platforming masterpiece that many still consider the greatest Mario game ever made. Power-up suits, 8 worlds, and dozens of secrets captivate millions of players worldwide. SimCity. 1989. Young game designer Will Wright releases a game with no traditional goals or enemies. Players build their own cities from scratch, proving that simulation can be just as thrilling as action. Super Mario World. 1990. Nintendo launches the Super NES alongside one of the greatest platformers ever made. Mario rides the dinosaur Yoshi and explores the colorful dinosaur land in vibrant 16-bit graphics. Sonic the Hedgehog. 1991. Sega creates a blue hedgehog to challenge Mario. Blazing fast gameplay, catchy music, and a vibrant style make Sonic the living symbol of the Sega Genesis and the hero of an entire generation of gamers. Mortal Kombat. 1992. Midway releases a fighting game with digitized actors, blood, and shocking finishing moves. The controversy over violence leads to the creation of the age rating system for video games in America.
Sub-Zero win fatality. Fight.
Do. 1993. ID Software releases a game that defines the first-person shooter genre for decades to come. Demons, weapons, blood, and relentless speed, Doom becomes not just a game, but a cultural phenomenon, the foundation of modding and multiplayer battles. Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. 1994. A young studio called Blizzard creates a real-time strategy game about the war between humans and orcs. The dark fantasy atmosphere and polished gameplay give birth to a universe that will conquer millions of gamers a decade later.
Your bidding? Yes, my lord. My liege.
Command and Conquer. 1995. Westwood Studios releases the iconic real-time strategy game about a war over the mysterious resource Tiberium. Live-action cutscenes and dynamic battles set a new standard for the genre for years to come. Super Mario 64. 1996. Nintendo brings the legendary plumber into 3 dimensions and sets the gold standard for platformers of the future. Free camera movement and massive levels inside Princess Peach's castle change the very idea of what video games can be. Final Fantasy VII. 1997. Square brings the legendary RPG series to the Sony PlayStation. Cloud Strife, eco-terrorists, and a tragic storyline become the defining symbol of a new era of console gaming. Half-Life. 1998. A young studio called Valve releases a shooter that revolutionizes storytelling in games. Instead of cutscenes, events unfold before the player's eyes. Instead of a shooting gallery, a scientific catastrophe at the Black Mesa Research Facility. Gordon Freeman becomes an icon of the genre.
Yes, you're right. Gordon, we have complete confidence in you.
Well, go ahead.
Counter-Strike. 1999. 2 students transform an amateur Half-Life mod into the most popular competitive shooter in history. Special forces versus terrorists on legendary maps conquer internet cafes around the world. The Sims. The year 2000. Maxis, led by Will Wright, launches a simulator of ordinary human life. Players create characters, build houses, and live through entire generations. The Sims becomes one of the best-selling series ever and attracts millions who had never played games before. Halo, Combat Evolved. 2001. Bungie releases a shooter about Master Chief alongside Microsoft's Xbox console. Epic battles against the Alien Covenant turn Halo into the #1 reason to buy Microsoft's new console.
No thanks to your driving, yes.
So you did miss me.
Report!
It must have been one of their boarding parties. I guess an antimatter charge.
Ma'am, fire control for the main cannon is offline.
Captain.
Metroid Prime. 2002. Nintendo brings the legendary Samus Aran series into three-dimensional space, inventing a new subgenre, the adventure shooter with exploration. The mysterious planet Talon 4 becomes one of the most atmospheric locations in gaming. Call of Duty. 2003. Infinity Ward releases a World War II shooter based on real battles at Stalingrad in Berlin. Cinematic presentation and dramatic missions turn the series into the dominant force in first-person shooters. World of Warcraft. 2004. Blizzard opens the gates to the massive fantasy world of Azeroth. Millions of players form guilds, explore continents, and battle legendary bosses. It is the most successful massively multiplayer online role-playing game of all time. Resident Evil 4. 2005. Japanese studio Capcom reinvents its legendary survival horror franchise. Leon Kennedy arrives in a Spanish village to rescue the president's daughter, and the game sets a new standard for action horror. Wii Sports. 2006. Nintendo launches the Wii console with a collection of sports mini-games. Motion controls turn tennis, bowling, and boxing into family entertainment and attract millions of new gamers. Portal. 2007. Valve releases a genius puzzle game about a woman named Shell who solves spatial puzzles with a portal gun. The dark humor of the AI GLaDOS makes Portal one of the most beloved games in the history of the genre.
Hello again. To reiterate, previous one.
Fallout 3. 2008. Bethesda revives the iconic post-apocalyptic series in 3 dimensions. The irradiated wastelands of Washington, moral choices, and dozens of hours of exploration open the franchise to a new generation of gamers.
Big things. They're all over Great Itch, and they killed everyone. Please, mister, please find my papa.
Minecraft. 2009. Swedish programmer Marcus Persson releases a survival game set in a world made of blocks. Creative freedom, procedurally generated worlds, and co-op play turn Minecraft into the best-selling game of all time. Red Dead Redemption. 2010. Rockstar brings its open-world formula to the Wild West. John Marston rides across endless prairies, hunts down bandits, and tries to save his family from the sins of his own past.
Well, I, for one, am grateful, Mrs. Bush, that they are finally bringing civilization to this savage land.
I could not agree with you more, my dear.
Skyrim. 2011. Bethesda releases the 5th Elder Scrolls and gives players one of the most living open worlds in history. Dragons, magic, countless quests, and the northern landscapes of Skyrim continue to captivate new generations of gamers over a decade later. Journey. 2012. Fatgama Company releases a meditative adventure about a lone traveler in the desert. Minimalism, emotional music, and astonishing anonymous multiplayer turn Journey into one of the greatest arthouse masterpieces of the decade. The Last of Us. 2013. Naughty Dog releases the first chapter of a survival saga set after a fungal pandemic. Smuggler Joel and the young girl Ellie journey across a ruined America, and the game becomes the gold standard for cinematic storytelling.
Ellie, you okay?
Shitting my pants? I'm fine.
Let's go.
Dark Souls 2. 2014. Japanese studio From Software continues its brutal and atmospheric action RPG series. Players die hundreds of times, uncover the secrets of the cursed kingdom of Drangliak, and prove that hardcore games can reach a massive audience. The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. 2015. Polish studio CD Projekt Red sets a new standard for open-world role-playing games. A massive map, moral dilemmas, vivid characters, and the gripping story of Geralt of Rivia earn worldwide acclaim and dozens of Game of the Year awards. Overwatch. 2016. Blizzard releases a team-based shooter with charismatic heroes from around the globe. A vibrant art style, polished game design, and constant support turn Overwatch into one of the defining online games of the decade. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. 2017. Nintendo reimagines its legendary franchise and releases an open-world game on the brand-new Switch console. Link freely explores a ruined Hyrule, and the game receives dozens of Game of the Year awards. Red Dead Redemption 2. 2018. Rockstar releases a prequel to its Western epic and creates the most detailed game world in history. Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang live out the final days of the Wild West era. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. 2019. From Software releases an action game about a shinobi in feudal Japan. A punishing parry system and incredibly challenging boss fights earn the game the title of Game of the Year and expand the Souls formula. The Last of Us Part 2. 2020. Naughty Dog releases the continuation of the legendary survival saga. A brutal, emotional, and stunningly beautiful story of Ellie's revenge becomes one of the most talked about events in gaming history, collecting around 300 Game of the Year awards. It Takes Two. 2021. Swedish studio Hazelight releases a co-op platformer about a couple on the brink of divorce, turned into dolls. Inventive game design and a captivating story earn the game the title of Game of the Year. Elden Ring. 2022. From Software releases its first truly open world, created in collaboration with writer George R.R. Martin. The merciless yet mesmerizing lands between conquers millions of players and sweeps every major industry award. Baldur's Gate 3. 2023. Belgian studio Larian releases a massive role-playing game based on Dungeons & Dragons rules. Deep choice systems, charismatic companions, and dozens of hours of adventure make it the definitive game of the year. Astro Bot. 2024. Japanese studio team Asobi brings back the magic of classic platformers as a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Inventive level design, precise controls, and the pure joy of gameplay earn Astro Bot the title of Game of the Year. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. 2025. Young French studio Sandfall releases a stunning role-playing game inspired by the Belle Époque era. A painterly universe, turn-based combat, and a tragic narrative become one of the biggest surprises of the year. GTA 6. 2026. Rockstar returns with the long-awaited sequel to the most anticipated series in gaming history. The massive state of Leonida, two protagonists, and incredible world detail promise a new revolution in open-world games.